Hello, everyone, and welcome to the session behind the scenes of the First IstioCon. My name is Aizhamal Nurmamat, and I'm a program manager in the Google's open source programs office. And you can find me on Twitter with handle I'm Aizhamal.
Yes, and I am Maria Cruz. I'm a program manager at the Google Open Source Programs Office. And you can also find me on Twitter at marianarra_.
Yeah. In this session, we'll talk about running an online conference during pandemic on the example of IstioCon that we hosted early February this year. We'll cover like what is Istio and what is IstioCon, how we went from the idea and then to execution, and what was the conference outcome and impact to the project itself.
Great. So let's get started with what is Istio and what is IstioCon. IstioCon, sorry. Next slide. So we are going, sorry, my cat is doing weird things. So Istio was developed by Google and IBM, and is, as we like to call it, we talk about it as the industry's favorite service mesh. And sorry, I'm taking a few minutes to recall. It's an open source project created by Google and IBM, as I was saying, that extends Kubernetes to establish a programmable application-aware network using the powerful Envoy service proxy. Working with both Kubernetes and traditional workloads, Istio brings standard universal traffic management, telemetry, and security to complex deployments. Next slide, please. So what is IstioCon? IstioCon was the project's first community-focused event. And so let's take a minute to reflect on what it actually means for an event to be community-focused. The largest area of contribution to the conference was producing content that is useful to the project and its adoption. And the goals of the event were aligned with supporting and growing the community and the project to increase adoption. So this means that the conference didn't have marketing goals connected to generating revenue for any given company. Any vendor that submitted content was acknowledged in the event communication with no requirement to pay. So moving to the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit about how we went from the idea to executing the event. So next slide, thank you. The step one is creating a proposal for the steering committee. As I mentioned before, Istio is an open source project, which means that decisions about it go through the steering committee. To make a proposal, you should start by identifying the actors that will be affected by the event. Who are you trying to reach and who will be interested in presenting content? For example, for Istio, we knew there were dozens of companies using the technology, and they were a target audience for the CSP. Then you should focus on the event experience. Describe what the conference is going to be like for participants. And this is especially important for virtual events. And finally, share your vision for the impact you hope to have with this event. And this will get people excited to participate in the conference. Next slide, please. Step two is designing an event engagement model. While most conferences will have a sponsorship model, in the case of IstioCon, we were limited because we couldn't collect funds on behalf of the project. To this end, we created the partnership model. That works in a very similar fashion. Event partners pay for a portion of the event. And what is the difference? While in the sponsorship model, you have a bag of cash, which is what I try to represent here, to distribute across different event providers. In the partnership model, the event partner connects directly with the vendor providing the good or service. For example, for IstioCon, Cisco sponsored the speaker gift, and they took care of connecting with the vendor, producing and shipping the gift. So this represents less work for the organizers and more work for the sponsoring company. Next slide, please. Step three includes distributing workloads and finding vendors. It is important to have clear responsibilities and milestones to keep all the groups on track, even if you don't participate in all the meetings. Here I outline the main actors and the responsibilities in the event. Next slide, please. Finally, to wrap up this section about the execution, step 4 is setting up project tools. Meetings are key to discuss important conference logistics and make decisions about the event. Equally important are meeting notes because they document action items and decisions taken. A project tracker will help you to identify important milestones. For example, for IstioCon, it was important to have keynote speakers selected in mid-January at the latest to properly promote the event. In the communication plan, include messaging and concepts you want associated with the event. For Istio, we wanted to lean on use and adoption. So one of the key ideas we focused on was the industry's favorite service mesh. Finally, guidelines are important to onboard participants and speakers faster. So now I think, I'll pass it on to Aizhamal.
Thank you, Maria. Yes, Maria covered like all these things that, I mean, of course, it was very lightly covered because of the time constraint, but yeah, you have to set up all your trackers, you have to identify your milestones and all of that. And then day of the event comes and you hope everything goes well. And here, the rest of the talk, I'm going to focus, what was the outcome from the conference that we ran earlier this year in February? And what was the project impact, right? So let's remember our initial goal. We always were focused on the community and we wanted to bring the community together. And we identified certain metrics that we would measure our success against those metrics, right? So we wanted to first be as inclusive as possible, meet our users where they are. So we had volunteers and contributors from 10 different companies to organize this event. We wanted to make an online inclusive event to serve some of the users that we knew existed in China. So from our team of organizers, a few of them focused on building program in Chinese and on Beijing time zone, and they were responsible for keynotes and the programs and the speakers and registering them, because in China they also use different tools that is different from what we use in for North America or Europe focused events. And for the English program, we selected a time that would work as much as possible for Americas and Europe. So it's early in West Coast time, and that would be very late in Europe. So we built a program, opened the registrations, and waited. So we didn't know how many people would register or join live to engage with us. We had a target of 1,500 people to join for inaugural event, and and here's what happened, right? The attendance exceeded our expectations. More than 4,000 people joined, from 84 countries. And this was really, really awesome. This was beyond our expectations. But, and here's the map, the representation of the attendees. And as you can see that every continent is covered. One thing to note is that, we already mentioned, that we built the schedule to serve North America, Europe, and China, but we saw people joining live from India, Russia, Australia, even though the timing was very, very inconvenient for them. They would wake up, I don't know, at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning to tune in into the talks and listen to them. And this was the signal for us to engage with those communities even more in the future. And one of the highlights of the conference was also that more than a dozen end users, big companies, presented their use cases at the conference, and we discovered new users of Istio. For example, Airbnb or Sberbank, which is the largest bank in Russia, used Istio in incredibly large scales, right? But we didn't know that. And by connecting with these users, project developers were able to receive feedback and understand their user needs better. And kind of they would run into like crazy bugs that no one had previously run because of the scale that they were deploying Istio. And that was very helpful for users to connect with the developers and engage together. And another added benefit is that now we have a significant repository of Istio talks, and they range from projects roadmap to technical deep dives, troubleshootings, demos. And these videos help our users know what to expect from the project in the future and deepen their technical understanding of Istio. We continuously receive feedback from viewers on the videos. They comment, they ask questions, and it signals which topics are most interesting for users, what content we should build in the future, what to focus on currently, what issues to address first, and so on and so forth. So it's very good indication for the project owners on like where users are at and what they're interested in. In the months of the conference, we also saw significant influx of new visitors into Istio website. And out of all users on istio.io in the month of February, like 87% were first-time visitors. So a lot of people, that was a spike that indicated that IstioCon brought new users to the project. And this event brought sustained increase in engagement from users on project channels. For example, we had 23% audience growth on Twitter, almost 20% growth on Istio's website, and this growth is sustained over 9 months since we hosted. And we into the program, though like engagement is from on-site events, we still had chance to meet and get to know a few people from the project. We had artists come and draw our caricatures. We had dancing sessions. We played online poker games, and don't worry, only virtual money was involved, and many other fun activities. So, and here's a quote from one of our users, and we were happy that many people enjoyed the conference as much as we did.
So if you're interested in learning about these and other open source projects, you will be interested in learning about these two programs that we have in the Google Open Source Programs Office. Next slide, please. So Learn Kubernetes with Google is a content program that offers short videos on demand about specific topics like the Gateway API, parallel job patterns, the horizontal pod autoscaler, migrating from Docker Stream to Containerd, the MCS API, and many others. We also recently launched a series of quarterly live events where we bring together Kubernetes experts to discuss a specific topic. And the first event took place on October 6th, hosted by Bob Killen with panelists Laura Lawrence, Tim Hawking, Jeremy Onstead Thompson, Ricardo Rocha, and Paul Mori. And it focused on multi-cluster support in Kubernetes. And next slide, please. Thank you. We also host monthly events focusing on open source projects that Google is heavily invested in, like Apache Beam, TensorFlow, Knative, Istio, and others. Our next event is on Thursday, November 4, and it will focus on Go, an open source programming language. You can navigate to opensourcelive.withgoogle.com and register there for free. And I think with that, that brings us to a close. These are, again, our Twitter handles. So if you want to connect with us, feel free to do so over there. And thank you very much for coming to our session.
Yes, and thank you, All Things Open, for having us.